Hello and welcome to my stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate everybody who's here and everybody who keeps coming back, because we are more than 2/3 of the way through this story, and that means that there's a lot. But yeah, if you're new here, thanks for showing up. We will explain what we're doing in a moment. But first, before we explain what we were doing, let's go through the rigmarole. By the rigmarole, I mean all the bullshit I say before the stream actually starts. Let's start with my day and why I'm so all over the place. Last week, me and my friend were hanging out and we had food and we kind of looked at each other and we're both ADHD, and we said, hey, what's one thing that you've been putting off doing that you should do? And one of the things I've been putting off doing is getting my car inspected. It's been super expired, and I know I should do it, but I haven't. She also drives a Subaru and has not had her car inspected either. So we scheduled it so that both of us would get our car inspected today, and I got my car inspected today. I really love my car, but it is older, and as much as I like cars, I can't say that I am the best with maintenance. I did get like the water pump changed and the timing belt changed, and over the years it's had general maintenance, and that's been great. But whenever I get inspected, because it's a 2010, I get this dropping pit in my stomach, and I love not having a car payment. I love not having a car payment so much. I don't think that it's not a recession, with inflation, with whatever's going on in the economy, I can't afford a car payment. I'm a professional full-time performer. Anyway, so I got my car inspected. It didn't pass. And it didn't pass for general maintenance things. I need new rear brake pads. They also tried to upcharge me for a bunch of stuff that I can do myself, which I will get done this week. I will do it. Because it shouldn't cost $100 to put in license plate lights. They're $8 on the internet, and it takes a screwdriver and thumbs. And then, of course, when you bring it to the dealership for stuff like that, they always want to add like 16 other things, which are probably great things, but not necessary for inspection. So it needs new brake pads for the back, and it needs a bunch of little stuff that all in told they wanted to charge me like $500 to do. And then it needs new bushings and things in the front crossarm. And the brakes and the bushings are 100% reasonable things that I need to do. But then they also wanted to do a full engine flush and reseal and stuff like that. And the first invoice they showed me was over $6,000. If I have $6,000, I should put a down payment on a new car. I don't want to do that. It's not in my plan, but I also don't have $6,000. Don't know if I'm going to go back to that dealership for maintenance again, because I didn't have a fun time. They were slightly closer to my house, and they were very nice, and they were very thorough. And I'm not saying that they're bad. So that's that story. Anyway, if you want to see me perform live, you've got lots of opportunities to do it, because I took on a larger role with the World Oddities Expo. I'm doing all of their performance coordination now. And that also means that I'm emceeing most of their shows. As long as it fits in my tour schedule, they've become my priority show to be on for the time being. And then later on in the month, we're going to Nashville on June 15th and Louisville on June 22nd. So if you want to check me out this month and see any of those live performances, come out to the World Oddities Expo. You can see me there. You can say hi. I will say hi back. I will be busy, so I don't know how long I can hang out, but I will definitely just pop in and say hello and see how you're doing. The World Oddities Expo is mostly a vendor market. We've got all things from taxidermy to jewels to rocks to stones to weird knickknacks to art to coffee. Dead City Coffee. And makeup. The most curated flea market you can think of. The vendors are fantastic. We really love it. Then we also have workshops if you want to learn how to do cool stuff. We have educational speakers whenever we can find them. Who wants to help? Educational speakers are hard. They're hard to find. But we try to keep it an educational experience. But we also have live entertainment on the main stage throughout the day. So I'll be there. I'll be hanging out, trying to make sure that everything is interesting and entertaining. And if we can mix in some education in there, why not? I think that's a great idea. So come out to the World Oddities Expo. It's a peculiar paradise. I turned off as many ads as I possibly could. I tried. I know that there's still some ads and I'm sorry. But if you subscribe to my Twitch, you get it ad-free. And ad-free is great because if you get it ad-free, then you can listen to the story straight through and you won't get interrupted by ads. Also, if you subscribe to my Twitch, I will mail you a sticker. I drew these stickers myself. They're of my face. So if you subscribe to my Twitch and slide into my DMs with your mailing address, and I'll mail you a sticker for free shipping. It's 3 inches by 3 inches and it's of my face. So yeah, subscribe if you want to. It's a good time. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. If you leave a comment, it helps the algorithm tell YouTube that you like me, and then they push my video to more people. And not that they have a ton of views, because they don't have a ton of views, but maybe one day they will. And the more comments you leave on there, the more views that they'll get. And I read all of the comments. I read all of the comments partly because there's not that many yet. But even once there's a lot of comments, I'll read them. I'll read all the comments. Okay, cool. Good talk. Those are all the things I'm supposed to mention before we start getting to business. No, there's one more thing I have to mention. Last thing I want to mention is if you want to stay up to date on my stream or my performances or anything cool that I do, you should follow me on Instagram. It's where I post stuff. That's the whole spiel. Let's get into the meat of it. The meat of what we're doing right now. The meat. I don't even eat meat. I don't know why that's the sentence I'm stuck on. There's a band. There's a band that started way back in the 90s. Originally, this was a different band. No, it wasn't. This is not how this story should go at all. I don't know what I'm even trying to do. Coheed and Cambria is an awesome band. I'm sure that most of you have heard of them. If you have not heard them, then you at least know that they exist. Their lead singer is named Claudio Sanchez, and I don't know any of the other band members' names. So part of what makes Coheed and Cambria so cool is that instead of being just a band that writes songs and sad songs and love songs and breakup songs and touring songs, they do all of that, but they do all of it through the lens of comic books because each of their albums has a companion comic book.
Except for one of them, but that's a different story. Except for two of them. But that's a different story.
And these companion comic books follow around the characters Coheed and Cambria. In 2010, they decided not to release a comic book. Instead, they released a novel, and the novel is called Year of the Black Rainbow, and it is the prequel to all of the comic books. So all of the epic stuff that happens in the comic books in the entire universe and everything that's going on and why it is and how it is, it's in this book. I learned about this book because here's the thing. I've loved Coheed and Cambria for a very long time, and they've always been intertwined into playlists and stuff. And I knew that they had these companion comic books called the Amory Wars, but I never read the comic books. I just knew that Coheed and Cambria's lyrics were weird and that they were weird because of comics. But then when I found out they had a novel, which I did not know about until this year, I was like, I need to read it. And so now I'm subjecting the internet to me reading Year of the Black Rainbow with all of you. And I've never read this book before. So when I struggle over words or sentences or characters, it's because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. We're here. We're in it together. We're doing it together, team. So that's what we're doing here. Other things to note about Coheed and Cambria is they are on tour this summer. They're going to a ton of places. Instead of saving up money to fix my car, because I didn't know I had to do that, I dropped a bunch of money on a high-end meet and greet pass for Coheed and Cambria at the end of the summer, because I thought it would be a good way to round out my weird hyperfixation on Coheed and Cambria this summer. So yeah. I also need to fix my car. Check out the tour. It's awesome. You can go to the Coheed and Cambria website to check out all their tour dates, and you can buy tickets to whatever show you want to. There's a bunch of them. Watch them. And even if you don't love their music, I highly suggest you checking out their shows because the energy they bring to the stage is completely unreal. It's a vibe from the whole crowd and everybody's into it and everybody feels it because let's face it, Coheed and Cambria fans are nerds. We're all just a bunch of nerds. And they feel it from the depths of their soul. The band does, the audience does, and everybody's there for it and everybody's experiencing it together. And if you've got time and money, you should go see one of their shows this summer. Not sponsored. This is just life advice I have for you. Now's the time for the recap. I've got news for you though. I've been editing these VODs, and though the recaps are fun, and they were a lot of fun at first, we're too far into the story. I can't give you a full story recap because it takes too long. There's an alternate universe. This alternate universe is called Heaven's Fence. Heaven's Fence is comprised of 78 planets. The 78 planets are connected by a mysterious blue energy called the keywork. Keywork energy is kind of like gravity, but better, because not only does it connect all of the planets, but it helps sustain and provide life to them, because all 78 of these planets have life. There's various kinds of life. I think, if I understood this correctly, there is some life outside of Heaven's Fence. Like, there is, like, extra aliens. I can't even say extraterrestrial, because there's different planets. So, extra universal life. There's other aliens that have not come from Heaven's Fence. We haven't met many of them, but we did hear about them last time. That's a tangent. Brynna, stop going on tangents. Cool. Within Heaven's Fence, God, or he who is on high, gave them a book. The book is called the Gansgrad. The Gansgrad outlines everything that is within Heaven's Fence, such as there are 3 types of beings. There's a bunch of humans. Hecka humans. The humans are pretty normal. They got jobs. They live their lives. They're like the worker bees. They deal with their own stuff. They're fine most of the time. Then you have mages, and the mages, there's only 12 of them. You can be born a mage or you can get elected to become a mage. And the mages are kind of like the Pope, but kind of like God, because they all have superpowers, but none of them are as powerful as God, and there's 12 of them. And they're sent to watch over the humans. Keeping up with me so far? Great. Then there's the prize. And I don't remember how many prizes there are. I don't know if they ever told us. The prize are like the Sailor Scouts. Like the Sailor Scouts if the Sailor Scouts had a baby with the Borg. Because the prize are kind of like angels. They watch over the heavens. So whereas the mages watch over the humans, the prize watch the skies. And they try to solve God's riddles. And their biggest task, according to the Gansgrad, is to make sure that nobody tries to fight God. Their whole purpose is so that nobody challenges God, and God can keep doing God stuff, and they can keep doing their stuff, and the mages can keep doing mage stuff, and everything is supposed to work in this super balanced harmony. And the prize are there to watch over that. They also kind of share a hive mind, and they elect a guardian, and the guardian is the voice of the prize. It's not really their leader, it's just the person who speaks for them at the time. So you got the prize, you got mages, you got humans. They all live in Heaven's Fence. Heaven's Fence is connected by the keywork energy. That's the background. The story. The main characters are, you've got Wilhelm Ryan. Wilhelm Ryan is a mage gone bad. He decided to either assassinate or kidnap all of the other mages and then take over everything because he wants to fight God. He's got a first in command named Mayo Deftinwolf, and Mayo Deftinwolf is basically just Wilhelm Ryan's simp. One of the mages tried to stop Wilhelm Ryan before all of this happened, but it didn't work. And he got poofed. We don't know where the kidnapped mages are being held, somewhere in House Atlantic, and they're being incubated. That's what we know about them. Once Wilhelm Ryan ended the Mage Wars and decided to take over everything, he actually proposed to God, "Yo, God, fight me." And then God put up a giant black swath across the cosmos called the Black Rainbow. That's the name of the book. Wilhelm Ryan saw it, was like, this is just a light show. Why do I care about this? The humans saw it and were like, oh my God. Okay, the humans are split. Some of the humans are like, oh my God, this is bad. And some of the humans are like, Wilhelm Ryan put up a black rainbow for us. Guess he's God now. That's okay. And then the prize saw the black rainbow and they were like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't have let Wilhelm Ryan stop all the mages, but we were busy and we're not really here to like mess with the terrestrial things. We're just here to be pretty Sailor Scout ladies. During the Mage Wars, there is this doctor named Dr. Hohenberger. His son got killed, and him and his wife got very sad about it. His wife, whose name is Pearl, his wife's an etymologist. She messes with bugs in the chrysalis stage. It's a whole thing. Watch the VODs, catch up. They're mourning, they're fighting a lot, and Pearl is somehow convinced that Dr. Hohenberger, Leonard, needs to save Heaven's Fence. She's like, I don't know why you're not doing anything. You're a butthole. I'm mad at you. You let our son die. When the Prize find out that the Black Rainbow's there, they get all huffy isn't the right word. They want to help, but they can't really help themselves because they don't do stuff with the terrestrials. So instead, Paranoia, the guardian of the Prize at this point, pokes Dr. Hohenberger in the forehead and it unlocks a bunch of knowledge so that he can stop Wilhelm Ryan, hypothetically, and save the soul of humanity. He's not entirely sure how he's going to do this, but she tells him that he needs to make a ground team. So he does. He sets about to make 3 IRO bots, and there's only supposed to be 3 of them. That's all that was ever asked for, and he has to do it in total secrecy. There's Inferno, which was the first one that was made, and it's a genetic match to Dr. Hohenberger. So Inferno, the oldest of the IRO bots, knows everything that Dr. Hohenberger knows, is basically just the little Dr. Hohenberger clone. Then you have Coheed, which is also known as the Beast, and he's this prize fighter, got a gun arm mech robot thing. And then you have Cambria, and the Beast's DNA, Coheed's DNA, was taken from Joseph, Hohenberger's dead son. And then you have Cambria, and Cambria's DNA was a gift from the Prize, and we're not sure if that's Prize DNA or somebody else's DNA or a mix of a bunch of stuff. What we do know is that it's 0.001% mage, and Cambria has psionic powers. So she can make seismic waves come out of her brain, and she can take over brains a little bit, and she's a little bit psychic, but in a weird way. She can't read minds or anything. And that's the ground team, and they're IRO bots. They were grown in tubes, and when they came out of the tubes, they were full adults, and all of the information they needed to know was fed directly into their brains. So they don't really have childhoods or memories, but they do have feelings, because genetically, even though they're robots, they're still just people. I mean, kind of. They've got super epic healing abilities, which is why he can have an arm that turns into a gun and an arm that shoots machetes out of it, and why they can take a beating like a mother fluffer. But they still have feelings and emotions, and they weren't supposed to. Dr. Hohenberger didn't plan on them having feelings and emotions, but they do. We found that out very intensely last chapter, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Dr. Hohenberger makes the ground team. The ground team's fighting off Wilhelm Ryan left and right. Wilhelm Ryan's like, where did these things come from? Oh my gosh! And he's all mad about it, so he tries to get somebody on his side, and that dude is like, no. Somebody in his prison. And then he makes it his own mission to go find where these IRO bots came from and who they are and who made them and who's in charge of them. And he thinks that the Prize has something to do with it, but he's not entirely sure. But then he finds him. Ryan finds Dr. Hohenberger, and he sends Deftinwolf. And Deftinwolf kidnaps Pearl, Dr. Hohenberger's wife, traps her in a glass coffin, sends Deftinwolf to tell Dr. Hohenberger about it. He tells Dr. Hohenberger that he needs to help Ryan. And he needs to help Ryan by helping him solve problems in this virus. And the virus is called the Monstar. And the Monstar can end all of life. Because basically, Ryan's plan is a doomsday plan. Mutually assured destruction. If Wilhelm Ryan can't be God, then he wants to destroy all of God's believers, because then God won't be real either. But the virus doesn't quite work yet, and they know that Hohenberger is super smart. So they set Hohenberger on the task to help work on the Monstar, and they're holding his wife as hostage so that he feels like he doesn't have a choice and he doesn't know what's right and what's wrong. And eventually he agrees because he can see how much his wife is suffering. That's a lot. It's a lot sad. And Dr. Hohenberger is fighting with the KB, that's what they call them, the KBI, Knowledge, the Beast, and Inferno, about like what the plan is, what we're going to do, how we're going to do this. And And he sends Inferno away on the Grail Arbor, which is their spaceship, which was donated to them by aliens, because he's got a sleeper word for Coheed and Cambria. And where we left off, Coheed and Cambria start making out in the yard because they're like, oh my God, I love you. And then Dr. Hohenberger comes out and tells them they need to come inside so we can talk to them about stuff. And this is after he sent Inferno away. And then he says the sleeper word. And they both just stop. And the chapter ends with Coheed and Cambria on metal tables. And we don't know what happens to them. We don't know what's going to happen. And that's where we're at. That's the gist of the story. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens to Coheed and Cambria, Knowledge and Beast, and what happens to Hohenberger. Everybody's got feelings. Oh, and Hohenberger came back across one of Pearl's bug experiments in the last chapter, and somehow that unlocked something in his brain. He's like, I can use this for the Monstar. Because Dr. Hohenberger also wants to make the Monstar something that kind of like secretly kills itself so that he's not responsible for the death of everything. And the other thing is that according to Deftinwolf, Ryan isn't necessarily going to use the Monstar virus. He'll only use the Monstar virus if God doesn't fight him. You ready? Let's go. Year of the Black Rainbow by Claudio Sanchez with Peter David. Chapter 15. While You Were Sleeping. General Deftinwolf had made his first sojourn to the home of Leonard Hohenberger completely on his own. He had the element of surprise after all. And he also felt it sent an important message of confidence that he was there without any sort of backup. His return to the Hohenberger domicile was a result of the good doctor summoning him via the communications program and the files that Deftinwolf had left him. This meant that there was every possibility that Hohenberger might be stupid enough to attempt a betrayal and endeavor in some way to spring a trap upon him. So, when Deftinwolf arrived at the Hohenbergers' isolated mountain retreat, he had 100 troops with him. There was the likelihood that if they were to find themselves going up against a full-on assault from Knowledge and the Beast, that 100 would not be enough. Then again, neither would 1,000 in all likelihood. There was a fine line between trying to put forward an image of strength as opposed to pointless overkill. Deftinwolf made a circling gesture with his raised finger, indicating to the troops that they should take up positions surrounding the house. They did so immediately, spreading out without making a significant amount of noise. They had been too well trained to just go crashing into things and producing a racket. Once he was confident that his men were in position, Deftinwolf strode to the front door and knocked on it. He could have, of course, just kicked it in, but he saw no reason to engage in brutal acts of destruction. They were, after all, invited guests. No reason they could not act as such. The door swung open, and Hohenberger was standing within. He looked like a well-educated doorman. Come this way, General, he said, indicating with a sweep of his arm so that Deftinwolf could enter. Deftinwolf did so, moving with his usual confident saunter. Still, he took the time to drop his voice to an oddly conversational mutter. You realize if something were to happen to me, my men will cut you to pieces before you have an instant to celebrate your good fortune? Hohenberger regarded him blandly, as if he were staring at a schoolgirl who had just committed some manner of faux pas. Of course I understand that, General. I'm not stupid. In fact, I assume it is the fact that I am not stupid that you sought my help in the first place. Despite the importance of his position in the grand scheme of things, Deftinwolf could scarcely contain his excitement. You have it, then? That which Wilhelm Ryan declared you were to provide us? I would not have activated your summons had I not done so. Where is it? First things first. My wife. Is she alive? Yes, Deftinwolf said readily. How do I know that? She could be dead by now, and you would have no reason to share that information with me. She is not dead. She is alive. How do I know? How do I know unless you show her to me? You do not get to dictate terms, Doctor. Hohenberger folded his arms and stuck out his chin slightly. Deftinwolf had to fight the urge to strike him in it. If I do not see that my wife is alive, then you do not get your precious Monstar. I did not come here to fence with you, Doctor. He was clearly losing patience, unaccustomed as he was to someone giving him so much aggravation. People obeyed him, and if they did not, he would kill them. It seemed a perfectly good and understandable relationship. This man was creating impediments to the way things were done. That was simply unacceptable. Tell me you have the Monstar, and you will save your life, which is, in case you have not yet realized, that very much in danger. Tell me that you have knowledge and beast waiting for us as well, and you will see the release of your wife in no time. Say anything else, and I will say good evening, sir. Hohenberger stared at him for a long moment, and then Deftinwolf could see his resistance wilting. It all came down to Pearl, to that pathetic muling thing that was his wife. It was astounding how he could continue to love that creature despite the way that she had allowed the grief to consume not only her, but both their lives. And despite all that, he was still willing to throw everyone and everything away if it meant saving her. Deftinwolf honestly wasn't certain whether to admire him or pity him, and it settled for feeling vague contempt. Do you have a bioscanner? Hohenberger said abruptly. The question caught Deftinwolf off guard, which surprised him since he thought that nothing could. I have a medical technician to attend to wounds. He likely has one. Bring him to my lab, said Hohenberger. Why? Don't you have a bioscanner and all that marvelous equipment of yours? Yes, but it's mine, and you may not trust the results. Fair enough, said Deftinwolf reluctantly. He summoned the medtech, who looked slightly puzzled to have his services required since there had been no battle thus far. But he did as he was told, bringing the small boxy bioscanner with him as he and his general followed Hohenberger to his laboratory. There, Deftinwolf was gratified to see the formidable knowledge and beast laid out on tables like the den. Excellent, he said. He looked down at the beast and passed his hand experimentally over the beast's face. There was no responding blink. The beast appeared lifeless, save that he was breathing. Deftinwolf was reasonably sure that beast wasn't trapped within, like someone who had a stroke and was effectively a prisoner of his own body. The beast was basically sleeping, but with his eyes open? I have been waiting for this, and I'm going to do it with my own hands. He reached for the beast's throat, and Hohenberger said mildly, I would not do that if I were you. He smiled mirthlessly at Hohenberger. You must have known this was going to happen. What I would do. Yes, I did actually, but you don't know what's going to happen once you've killed him. Really? Deftinwolf was unimpressed by the last-ditch effort of Hohenberger's to try to save his little experiment. And pray tell, what's going to happen to me? I don't pretend to know the specifics of how it will transpire, but I'm reasonably sure that Ryan will kill you in retaliation. All Wilhelm Ryan cares about is making sure that the beast is disposed of. As for knowledge, and he gestured to Cambria, considering her current state, it might be appropriate to throw her to the troops, allow them to entertain themselves with her. I suspect she won't be aware of what's happening to her, but we can always hope. Then your troops will die. How? From your wrath? No, from her body. Deftinwolf didn't understand at first, but then, very slowly, he withdrew his hands. What have you done? He said with an edge to his voice. I have given Wilhelm Ryan what he asked for. I have simply done it, creatively. You claimed that he had no desire to employ the Monstar. Taking you at your word, I'm presenting it to you in a manner that will deter him from doing so. If he truly doesn't wish to use it, then that should not prove to be a problem. If he does, well, he shrugged. The general was beginning to lose patience. Don't play games or toy with me, Doctor. Tell me what you have done and tell me quickly. There was an unexpected fire in Hohenberger's eyes and a steel to his voice. What do you think would happen? That I would simply present you with a vial filled with something so virulent that releasing it could destroy all life in the keywork? It would be unconscionably stupid of me to do that. What if the vial were to shatter? What if you had a traitor in your midst? What if an accident occurred? What if none of those things were your concern? If I made the Monstar a reality, then they were absolutely my concern. Giving you the virus isn't enough. Making sure that it was contained was also important, and I have done so. Tired of trading words with Hohenberger, Deftinwolf brought the medtech forward. The medtech came as he was bidden, and the general said, Scan them. Look for any abnormalities in their bloodstream. Hohenberger folded his arms and actually smiled slightly. Deftinwolf, infuriated, would have liked nothing more than to wipe that smug expression off Hohenberger's face. But as always, he restrained himself, focusing on the needs and desires of Wilhelm Ryan. Well, he said impatiently. The medtech was shaking his head, looking confused. There's something in him, and in her, but the scanner can't type it. It's unlikely anything in my databanks. I'm sorry, General, but I don't know what I'm looking at. Best guess, then. The medtech looked afraid to give the wrong answer, and Hohenberger relieved him of his concerns. Think of it, said the doctor, as two components of an explosive, each of them harmless as long as they're on their own, but lethal once combined. Knowledge contains the core of the disease itself, which is why it would be an extremely bad idea if any of your men decided to avail themselves of her body. The beast contains the compound that will provide the disease the required level of virulence that your master is seeking. Although, as it so happens, that compound gives the beast immunity to the virus within knowledge. And combining their blood will give us the Monstar? No. You'd have to find a way to isolate the virus from their blood. It would be a very complicated procedure, I should think. Deftinwolf could no longer contain himself. Not wanting to sully his hands on the doctor, he pulled out his pulsar and pointed it directly between the Hohenberger's eyes. He had the targeting sight on, and so a perfect little pinpoint of red light took up residence just above the bridge of the doctor's nose. Give me the virus in its pure form. You did not specify in what form I was to give it to you. This is the one you get. This is not a game, Doctor. Of course it is, said Hohenberger. That's all it's been to Ryan since the beginning. A vast game of power played out across Heaven's Fence. A game in which everyone, you, me, everyone, is nothing but a pawn. I decided that one of the pawns should make his own move. Wilhelm Ryan will respect that. Really? And how can you be so sure of that? Because Wilhelm Ryan is a murdering bastard. I have just completed a virus that will enable him to kill billions, and thus I'm a murdering bastard as well. And murdering bastards have to respect each other. He stared levelly at Deftinwolf. Shoot or do not shoot. It is entirely up to you. The worst that happens is that I do not have to live with the guilt of what I've done. You would be doing me a tremendous favor. Deftinwolf had never wanted to pull a trigger as much in his life. Even as he wanted to yield the impulse, though, he knew that he wasn't going to. Besides, he could see it in Hohenberger's eyes, the vacancy of hope, the indifference. One of the most fundamental aspects of human beings was the desire to survive at all costs, and that impulse was absent from Hohenberger. The scientist was completely serious. At that moment, he truly didn't care if he lived or died. That being the case, what was the point of putting him down? Especially since it would render him useless to Ryan, should the Supreme Tri-Mage later decide that he had further use for him. Slowly, reluctantly, but inevitably, Deftinwolf lowered his weapon. Have them brought out to the ship, he snapped at the medtech, who in turn scurried to carry out the general's orders. I want all of your research, everything you used to make the Monstar a reality. If there's anything missing, if there's the slightest sign that you have held anything back, your wife will die. I promise you that. And she will die in such a way that she will be begging for it to happen sooner than it will. Do you understand that? Understand it? He laughed bitterly. Contemplating that has filled my every waking moment since you first set foot in my home. Minutes later, Deftinwolf's men had gathered up everything, Coheed, Cambria, all of Hohenberger's notes, and secured them all to the dropship. It was just Deftinwolf and Hohenberger once more. Much as it had been days earlier. How long until Pearl is released? Once Wilhelm Ryan has satisfied himself as to the truth of your claims, she will be brought here immediately. And then what? You'll kill us both? What would be the point of that? He said with a shrug. You are too small and this is far too big. He bowed slightly. You are an intriguing adversary, Doctor. You may think in a manner that is outside the norm. You give your opponent what he wants, but not in the way that he wants it. In that, of course, you are depending upon Wilhelm Ryan's good humor and respect to appreciate your cleverness, rather than reward it by returning your wife to you in pieces. My wife is already shattered, and that is entirely Wilhelm Ryan's doing. Is it? Or are you simply looking to blame someone for your own failures? In the end, is it Ryan's fault that your son is dead? Or are you angry with yourself for failing to protect him? Or is it God's fault for failing to protect any of you? Is it easy to select one individual element and say that it is entirely that element's fault? But the truth is, Doctor, that in your delivery of the Monstar, you have created a perfect analogy for the way the universe works. No single element is responsible for the diseases that plague us. It is always a combination of things. We can realize that and accept our own place in the grand scheme, or we can just point fingers and say, he and he alone is to blame. You're a considerate man. Consider that. Or don't. It's entirely up to you. Hohenberger didn't respond, which was fine as far as Deftinwolf was concerned, since he had nothing more to say to him. ... We're still in the chapter. It's just a ... We're in the middle of the chapter. But we're still in the middle of the chapter. We've got the ... which means scene change. Which means, are Coheed and Cambria going to wake up? Are we back into Pearl's glass coffin brain? Are we going to go talk to Wilhelm Ryan directly for the first time in a few Oh, I guess we did talk to him a few chapters ago. Or I guess Pearl did. But we only talked to him through Pearl. After the asterisks. I'm nervous. The scene changes always are hard. They're hard. Okay. Hohenberger was alone. Except he wasn't. He returned to his lab as he heard the last of the dropships take off. He was certain that at that moment, Coheed and Cambria were being whisked off to House Atlantic. At least Ryan wouldn't dare touch them. Hohenberger had managed to arrange that much, at least. He would treat them with extreme caution, as if they were highly volatile material. But he had to do more than that. And he had. He tapped a button on the wall and slid it aside. It revealed a highly secured area that he had crafted long ago just in case unwanted visitors happened to show up. Within that area was contained what he had come to refer to as the vats. It was the complicated array of devices that had basically served as a birthing area for Coheed, Cambria, and Inferno. It had not been long ago at all that he watched with amusement as Coheed, still in a pre-birth but adolescent state, had beheld Cambria and manifested an example of his physical interest in her. Yet at the same time, that moment seemed a lifetime ago. That's a really artful sentence. Now, there was something else. Someone else, floating in the viscous liquid that filled the vat, which had previously contained Coheed. A tiny being, legs curled up and arms tucked under its miniature chin. He noticed that she was sucking her thumb. Slowly, he placed his hand flat against the vat and stared in at her. He'd named her Josephine, an homage to a boy that she would never have the opportunity to know. He turned away from her quickly, before he lost control, forcing himself to think in a logical linear progression and remove any hint of emotion from the equation. Granted, he had a plan, but it was a plan conceived in hurry and desperation. There were any number of factors that he could not account for, and there was a distinct chance that things, as seemed to be the trend as of late, could go terribly wrong. He had to make preparations. He sat down in front of his vidcam, the one that he had usually employed when filming experiments in progress. They were for his own reference so that he could review them and possibly see somewhere where he had made an error. This, however, was intended for viewing by someone else. He hoped it would never come to that, but feared that it might. This is going to get sad. If you're watching this, he began, then the chances are that I am no longer alive. If that is the case, then listen carefully. Here is what I have done, and what you must do now. Because, and I apologize for the hyperbole, but the fate of every living creature on Heaven's Fence is going to depend upon your actions. That's the end of the chapter. That's the end of, it did that. Oh, what an exciting way to end the chapter. What a sad way to end the chapter. Anyway, guys, if you want to tune into the live readings here on Twitch, you can always tune in here. It's twitch.tv/bizarre_Bryn. We stream on Tuesdays at 8:13 p.m. Next week, same time, same place. Here on Twitch. Like, comment, subscribe, in all of the places. And if you subscribe on YouTube, it's free. You just have to click the subscribe button and then click the little bell so that you get notifications. Anyway, friends, family, loved ones, countrymen, ladies and gentlemen, you're very cool and stuff. Okay, bye.